Welcome, everybody. We're now on to episode 4 of our coaches interview, part of our new Time to Sign Connect. Today we have Coach Mickey Willard. Coach Willard is an assistant coach at High Point University. High Point University is a Division I program located in High Point, North Carolina, and is a part of the Big South Conference. So, Coach Willard, thank you for being on with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, to get started, I like to do this with all the coaches. Kind of tell your story in baseball. Like where's your passion come from, and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, man, I think it goes back a long time. I spent most of my life, like every kid growing up, thinking I was going to be a big leaguer and trying to make it to college baseball and made it there, achieved that goal and realized pretty quickly I can't hit anymore. The stuff's gotten harder and I'm gonna have to figure out how to be a coach if I want to stay in it. So, spent my time trying to get around the right guys and learn from really good coaches so that I could make a career out of it. And coached a couple years at the high school level, really good prep school here in High Point, Westchester Country Day School. Actually coached Coach Mack there for a little bit early in his career, and then moved on, coached at North Carolina Central, and then moved up to Maryland for a couple years at Towson University, and then kind of how life brings you full circle. Coach Hammond was my high school baseball coach. Worked together a long time and kind of stayed connected through the camp scene, and we ended up reconnecting after he got the job and came down here. Been an assistant for him for the 3 years he's been at the helm at High Point, and just kind of taking it one day at a time, rolling through, trying to win some games and see if we can win a championship and make a regional.
Yep. And side note for the guys watching, I actually played for Coach Willard and Coach Hammond at Westchester Country Day School as well, so both Wildcat alums. But to get started, I always like to ask, the first thing I like to ask is, every program has a mold of, what they're looking for in a potential recruit. So for you guys at High Point, like, what does a High Point Panther baseball player look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think we tend to boil it down to one word, especially talking on the offensive side. We like to find guys that create adversity in the box. That can come in a lot of different ways. Whether you're a guy who you're a walking RBI the second you step in the box because you can leave the ballpark at any time, or you're a guy who's got a small game, you can handle the bat, you can really run, high OBP. So we try to balance that out when we're recruiting. We're not really a one size fits all mold when we're going after it. And then on the pitching side, I'll let Coach Edwards pick his word for it. We use adversity in the box, but I think he's looking for pieces. How do you fit those things together? You see a lot of programs out there that might go at it one way or another. I think we like to have a little bit of balance and throw different things at you. But first and foremost, especially coming out of the high school ranks, which I know is where all your guys are at, strike throwing has become harder and harder to find these days. So premium strike throwers, guys that know how to pitch a little bit, let them come in and we'll develop the rest.
Yeah, it's in today's world of baseball, it's, oh, I can throw 95, but I, hit somebody on the first row and I had 4 or 5 walks in 2 innings today. But so kind of leading off of that, like when you're going out to high school games, we'll stick to the offensive side. What are some things that are going to stand out for you, maybe that aren't on the box score, but there's something you're going to see and kind of, like this is a guy that I would potentially want to keep watching?
Yeah, sure. I think obviously, if you're doing your job, the first thing you're looking for is performers. Guys who hit tend to hit. We talk about it a lot of times. You come out and watch one of our games. We got several different kind of swings in our lineup. And I think the worst thing I could do as a coach is overcoach that. We get somebody in there. We got a left fielder right now, Charlie Klingler, who I wouldn't teach that swing if my life depended on it. But all the guy does is hit. So I got to get out of the way. So to build on that, the things that I look for when I'm out there recruiting is, can a guy get on time? Can he get on time with fastball? If he can't get on time regularly, there's usually something in there that's kind of hard to coach out. And then the second thing is, can they recognize spin? If they can recognize spin and be in a good hitting position, whether I see them go 0 for 3 or 3 for 3 that day, that gives me a good sense that they've got the movement capability and the eyesight to be able to hit at the next level. That's the guy I want to see again because I think that performance is coming.
Yeah, and that's something I try to tell the kids a lot is, high school is great. Everybody, you see 86, you're like, oh, wow, that's hard. You start getting to college, guys start running out, guys throwing up near triple digits. You can't hit a fastball, you know, your playing time ain't going to be as high as you want it, and your success isn't going to be high as you want it. So, like the training we try to tell them is like, go set up a machine. It's great hitting an RMVP. Everybody can do that all day. Front toss is great, but challenge yourself in that regard of, are you willing to go do something that's challenging and doesn't make you feel good as a hitter, as a player sometimes? But
Everything builds off the fastball, man. Every plan, whether you're in advantage count, you're hunting heaters, or even fastball action soft, you can't do that plan if you can't be on time for the fastball. And I'd be hard pressed. College baseball these days, a lot of pitching coaches pitch backwards. You need to be able to sit soft, but I don't really know any guy who's good at that plan that also can't get on time for a fastball because it's just changing your timing in the box based on speeds. So being able to see a guy get on time is number one prerequisite.
okay, perfect. So, and you guys at High Point, obviously, it's a great academic institution. Are there some specific like standard numbers that a potential recruit like they have to have, or is it kind of open, or what does that look like on your guys' side?
For us, we've got opportunities like every school to find spots that fit every kind of guy. But we are a really strong academic school, and the biggest win for us is when we've got a guy who has a high GPA, good test scores, comes from a good high school. We don't have a specific like, hey, 3.5, you're going to get this. 3.8, you're going to get this. High Point uses a little bit more complicated matrix to determine, based on a variety of factors, what that academic award would look like. But for us to build a competitive team and live up to the things that the university expects of us, which is performance in the classroom and graduating our guys, we need to bring in guys that can do it on and off the field. And coach talks about it all the time. It's not just, hey, we want to have high academic guys. Usually the guys that, whether they're capable of being a 3.0 student or a 3.5 student, if they're doing what they're capable of, we're probably going to get the best version of them on the field too, because they're not underwater.
Yeah, I know a big deal for college coaches, and we tell the kids they call it like be a low maintenance guy. Don't be a guy that you constantly like, oh, what's this kid doing? What's this kid doing? And worrying about him like, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you take care of business off the field and the little things like that, they know that they can trust you. And then the field, baseball is just baseball, but they got to know that they can trust you in the classroom. So that kind of leads into this new kind of age of recruiting, and which kind of blows my mind a little bit because I mean I don't feel like I'm that old, but I got recruited in 2018, I guess, is when I graduated, and emails and all that stuff. I didn't send emails to coaches. It was more so just I went and played games. I didn't care about the metrics. It was that. But nowadays, emails is a thing. That's kind of how kids utilize that a lot. So for you, what are some things, one, that you're looking for, and then two, like what's going to make you, I guess, potentially read into an email more so than other ones that you're getting thousands of a day?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Because I think you're right. It has changed a little bit. I think if we're being honest, the crux of it's still out there. It's through relationships and people you trust. And, maybe there's a connection behind an email that helps you feel a little bit better about the information you're getting because we are getting hundreds and hundreds of emails every day these days. Um, but if you're trying to stand out and you're trying to get that email to kind of maybe jump to the front of somebody's eyes, one, understand the volume we're getting. So please don't send your life story. Quick hitter, who you are, what grade you're in, what position you play, maybe a brief sentence or two just to give a little background, and a very easy video link to get to, just so we can click on that and go through it. The back to your low maintenance comment, the more low maintenance you can make that email, so it's friendly, easy, kind of fly through it, the better chance it's going to get read and responded to. And then for us, got to say it because it's true more now, especially in high school. Our camps are validation days for us. It's not anything other than like we've got this list of guys. We're inviting you for a reason. We're trying to check that last box. Like, is this a guy who can play for us? Or, hey, man, it's not quite here. Our promise on the back end is at least we're going to give you an honest answer and say, hey, it feels a little short for us, but we do think you could play at this level, this level, or this level.
Yeah. So how much? Obviously, this question is kind of already answered, but like how much are you putting into those kind of prospect camp, team camp type things for a potential guy you would want to offer?
Uh, for us, especially now with how the rules have changed, and I'm a proponent of the fact that it's moved back, but it's less conversations that we get to have. So that's really a chance that we get to spend 24 to 48 hours around a guy and get to know kind of, are they someone who jokes around with the guys that they're in the dugout with? Are they, someone who handles failure decently? Just kind of what's their personality like? Obviously, come to camp, you go, like we said earlier, 3 for 3 or 0 for 3. That's not going to change our evaluation necessarily, but it's a last kind of checkbox on like, okay, we felt good about this guy. Hey, let's flip the switch and let's move forward. Or, and then just we saw that thing that we were a little worried about, just not quite there. We need to extend this thing out a little bit and see if we can get it there from a performance standpoint or whatever else it might be.
Yeah. So and then when you're at these camps and stuff, and I know big thing for us, like I'm trying to tell these kids, is like it's great to do these like perfect game things to do it, but it's so important to get in front of the coaches themselves and for you as a player to get to, I get to be on the High Point field. I get to be at the campus. I get to see what it feels like to be there. Because so many kids nowadays, it's just like, oh, I get a call, like, oh, I want to go there. Like you have no idea about the school. You don't know anything about the area. You don't really even know the coaches. You just send a generic email. You just change one name on it, and like I think it's such a big deal for the kids to know what it's like to be a High Point player for, even if it is just a weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I wish I'd had something like y'all's organization when I was coming up because I think the best thing for a player, say I'm someone who plays for you and I've got a good relationship with you, you're honest with me. I'd hope that you'd say, hey man, let's pick 5 schools and we're gonna layer them out a little bit. They're not all gonna be 5 SEC schools. We're gonna pick 5 schools ranging from a mid-major to a low mid-major to a Division II school, whatever it might be, whatever bandwidth you think that player kind of fits in, low and their ceiling, and pick 5 in that you really, really see yourself at. And we're going to go to those camps. We're going to connect with the coaches beforehand so they know who you are. We're going to go get a feel for the campus. That to me is the best thing you could do as a high school guy. Like you got to play in some of the big tournaments. It's a chance for you to put up performance, but I don't know you. A lot of guys do that. Unless I happen to be there on that particular day and write your name down, I'm probably going to write your name down and ask you to come to camp because I wanted to get that last kind of validation piece. So I don't know that. I hate people who waste their money doing things that aren't going to move the needle. That would be my strategy if I could go back to high school. Have someone I trust kind of lay out 5 schools for me and target those.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, moving the needle. It's like do things that are effective. Don't just do something to do something. Like, is what I'm doing right now going to help me get to potentially High Point University? Am I going to be able to? Is this going to help me get to where I want to be? Um, so now, kind of getting a little bit more into recruiting too. Is like how much when you go to watch games. I know we've lost fact of like the fact that you play a game to win. How much does like team success kind of like weigh in with like individual success?
I think especially at the high school level, it's hard because occasionally, man, you just, you don't have a ton of control over what the talent level is. But it also it makes it harder on the recruiting side if we don't get to see you play against decent talent. So that's something that every high school guy needs to evaluate, how important it is for them to get on different circuits, different teams, so that there's some apples to apples comparison. Um, but I still think it matters. I mean, we say it to our guys all the time. We've got guys on our team that want to be pros. And we're like, hey man, the number one thing that you can do to be a pro is to make sure that we win a lot because they want to draft guys from winning teams. They are going to come watch winning teams. Winning teams play longer. They play into the playoffs. They play better teams. Um, so it may be unfair a little bit at the high school level, but uh, we want winning personalities too. So if you're a guy who moves the needle on your high school team, we get that feedback from the coaches that are around you that you're just a gamer. Um, it's a valuable piece. It's an extra checkbox that might put one guy above another.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, winning programs. There's a ton of Georgia and Alabama football players playing in the NFL a lot. So those.
Sure are.
You say my favorite thing is, when guys say he's a gamer. Like for you, what are some things that you're gonna watch at a game and or something you'll see at a game that has nothing to do with necessarily, oh, I hit a double, I, made a Jeter play. That's gonna be like, all right, that's a type of guy that I want to play for me. I want to keep watching.
Specifically for me on the offensive side, I like seeing somebody who can impact the game on a day that they don't do something very spectacular in the box. Can they read a dirt ball? Can they make a defensive play? Is there some sort of IQ I can see on the base pass? And then obviously, we got nothing to do in between every out that's made other than watch the guy go about his business. How does he handle the in between innings? Is he a good teammate? Is the first guy to pick somebody up? It's not that that necessarily makes somebody like, oh yeah, let's go. But in the world that we're looking at with thousands of players, we're honestly kind of looking for a reason to say no. So if you don't give us a reason to say no, that keeps your name on the list. I know that's asking a lot of young kids, 15 to 18-year olds to be on all the time, but at our level, it matters. And to find a gamer, it's just somebody who every time they show up at the ballpark, they make their team better.
Yeah, and something I like to tell a lot of the kids is like, they're going to watch how you run out of pop up. They're going to watch how you handle failure. They're going to watch how you get onto the field. Are you talking to your parents during the game? Are you not focused? Are you worried about yourself? And like you said, like there's thousands of kids. They're looking for a reason to say, okay, next guy. And that's very simple. And the kids don't understand that that's real. So I appreciate you saying that because that's something we try to tell the guys it's like it's a huge deal how you do things that have nothing to do with you hitting a home run or you throwing 100 miles an hour. Like you have to be able to do the little tiny things to make yourself better. Um, and the other side, like on the baseball side, like when you go watch a guy, when you watch a guy that's willing to get hit by a pitch or put down a bunt or do the little things like that, how much more does that kind of put him on your radar when you're watching a player do things like that?
For me, it's the old adage is speed doesn't slump. That's great, but like not everybody that we're going to recruit or that's going to be in our lineup is going to have that tool. So if there's something else in your game that when things aren't going good, because I know as an offensive guy, man, there are times you're not seeing the ball well. There's times that the hits just aren't coming. Is there a way that you can be productive and valuable when you're not going good so that when the good times come back around, in college baseball, man, especially unless the other team is giving you free stuff, if you don't have some guys who can handle the bat and create offense, standing and hitting at the college level, you're just never going to be talented enough to out homer everybody. So, I like seeing those guys that maybe the speed's not in their toolbox, but they're going to hang in there. They're going to take that ball off the back. They're going to lay down a bunt when they need to. They're going to move the offense along. And then when they get hot, we'll let them ride. I mean, we got a couple guys. I'm not afraid to safety with our four hole when I know he's not going good because I know he can do it, and it helps me help him move the game along. And then I know he's 2, 3 at bats away from the thing looking like a beach ball again, and I'm gonna stop putting anything on because I'm stupid if I do, and I'm gonna wait for the 3-run homer.
Yeah, it's just doing the little things to help your team win a game. And kind of a side note here, more for the guys watching. I remember Mike Schilt told a story about how Albert Pujols in spring training used to bunt 2,000 balls every day because it helped him see the ball. You think Albert Pujols was laying down bunts? No, guy hit 600 home runs, 300 career hitter, but he was willing to do little things like that. And if a guy like Albert Pujols is doing that thing, I think that you should probably maybe get into that a little bit as well.
It's funny you say that, man. Two of our guys on our team who I don't think I've ever put the bunt sign on are two of our better bunters. They know how to get their eyes behind the baseball, and that translates to their hitting. So there's definitely something to it.
So now I want to get into the offensive side. And I mean, I was obviously a hitter as well, and you do hitting. Something that I've mentioned to some of the guys, and I want to see kind of what you think about it, is like I used to do a hitting journal when I was in college. High school, I was like, approach, what's approach? Just hit, just see the ball, hit the ball. Well, first year of college, I couldn't hit my weight. So like what are some things that you do with your guys to kind of like, I guess, teach approach and work on approach that you probably don't see as much like in the high school level?
I think for us, it's kind of two-faceted. Well, maybe three-faceted. We do spend, kind of new age stuff on movement. We want to make sure that we screen all of our guys to find out if they've got any limitations. Uh, Best case example, like, hey man, I'm sitting here as a hitting guy saying, hey, get in your back hip. We need to be able to hold that hitting position. Come to find out, the kid gets screened and his ankle moves terribly and he can't get in his back hip. So I'm just saying the same thing over, no result. We got to fix the root problem first. And then the second thing, when we're on the field, we spend almost all of our time not talking mechanics, but talking ball flight. Can we spin the ball the right way in the middle of the field? Can we get behind the baseball with the right direction? We'll get into that feel, that being the result we're looking for. Once we're there, we're in a pretty good place from our movement, which should mean our swings are going to be as good as it can be. We're in a good place from our ability to get behind and back the baseball up, get in the backside gap and work everything off that. Then we start our plan development, which for us, obviously the see ball, hit ball plan at the college level hopefully graduates into the fastball action soft. We're looking for things elevated in the zone. We're hunting different locations, but for us more so, we want to build the ability to hunt speeds. Guys, especially the guys that are going to pitch on Friday night that you have to beat to be really good. They usually have an outlier one direction or the other, whether it be a fastball outlier or they've got a breaking pitch outlier. If they can throw both for strikes, that's why they're going to be tough. So sometimes we've got to be willing to be on one or the other. You're not always going to be able to cover both. And so that's where our plan development comes in with machine work and a bunch of other things to really be able to be on spin. And if you're on spin and you're doing it the right way, the 92-mile-an-hour fastball should look 111. It should look unhittable. And then the opposite being the same. If you're on a plus fastball, maybe a tick to the pull side gap, trying to make sure that our miss is out in front, we shouldn't be able to be good on a breaking ball. And then obviously last piece of that is to build your two-strike plan off of that, be able to cover the outer half in college baseball. You got to give something to get something. And most of that comes down to fight. And we try to put that in our scrimmages, to be honest with you, because that's the best time and place to kind of deploy those plans and practice them.
Yeah, and like you talk about like approach and stuff, and I think one thing kids don't really realize is like approach can't be something that for the first time you're telling yourself in your head in the game. It can't be like, oh, I'm gonna hit the ball through shortstop this set. Like you need to work on it before the game starts in practice because that's how you figure out one, do I feel like this is something that is effective for me as a hitter? And two, is it something I can do? Is like, am I going to tell myself this and I'm actually trying to do it? Because like you said, it's like if you're sitting breaking ball and you get a fastball, you shouldn't crush it. You shouldn't be right on it. So if I tell you, if you're facing a soft throwing lefty and you're telling me, all right, I'm trying to hit the ball through the four hole, and you ground out to third three times, I don't know how much you're really actually you're trying to hit that ball to that spot. So I guess this is my next question is like after game stuff, like when you're looking at kind of at bats with a kid, like what's some things that you want to highlight with a kid, post game reaction type of thing?
One comment, that's the classic one right there. Soft throwing lefty. We know that the plan's to back the ball up, get in the back plate, whatever your verbals are for seeing the ball deeper. But you see those guys who like they'll swear on it. Oh, I'm looking soft there. But in the back of their head, they're like, but he might throw a fastball. He might do it. He might, I don't want to miss the one that he throws. It's hard, man. It's hard to break that habit and get out of it. But as far as, recapping a guy who might have been in that situation, we're going to do the same thing, man. We're going to look at it and say, were you on time for the plan that you were in? Because if you weren't, everything's out the window. Okay. So let's say you were great. Then did we swing at the right pitch? Did we swing at the pitch that was the right plan, the one we were looking for, and was our direction in the middle of the field? If both of those are yeses and we still didn't have success, I bet there's a decent bit of bad luck in there. But we're going to go through those two pillars first. And if there wasn't something right there, then that's what we're going to spend our time getting back to is making sure we're doing all our prep work to be able to deploy that plan. And the last piece is you got to know your personnel. like some guys can't do certain plans. No matter how much you train it, no matter how much they work on it, okay, that may be the best plan versus that guy, but that's not your best plan. So we got to take your best plan to the plate and hope we get what we're looking for and have a chance to do some damage. Way better than taking the wrong plan.
Yeah, and like you talk about a plan, and I'm trying to teach the guys what it is to have a plan, and that plan can also change. So for me, I was a guy with two strikes. I would try to hit the first base bag because I knew if there's no way I can be early and hit the first base bag. But if I'm facing, a guy throwing 98, 100 miles an hour, I think I'm going to sit more in the middle of the field because if I try to hit the first base bag, I'm going to kill my on deck hitter. So it's just the ability to adjust to who you're facing and go off of that. And I like those two things you said because those are kind of the two things that I try to talk with the kids. It's like, oh, my swing sucked. I was like, well, you were late and you swung a ball 4 balls off the plate. You think you're going to have a pretty swing? I've never seen anybody in the big leagues have a pretty swing on a ball that was nowhere close and they were late. So I appreciate those two things you said. It's like, were you on time? And did you swing at a good pitch? Like, and you said plan, and I think that's another good one. It's like, were you swinging at the right pitches to fit your plan? If you're telling me you're looking the other half of the plate and you swing at 2 balls in the inner half of the plate, I don't know that you were actually sticking to what you just told me that you were doing.
100%. And look, it hitting is really hard. Like it's hard to get all three of those things right, but when you do, that's when it comes together. And I mean, at the end of the day, one of the reasons, you probably have to talk swing a little bit more with your guys than we do, mostly because like if we recruited guys that can't hit and their swing's not going to work, then like we probably have a problem there. We not saying there's not a place for lessons and things like that, but I've seen a lot of swings work, man. Turn the TV on at night. There's a lot of different ways to get there. Uh, get into that hitting position. If you can get there, I don't really care how you started. That's usually where success comes from.
Yeah, there's like you said, there is a lot of guys. I mean, just go for you young guys, go look up Eric Davis with the Reds and guys like that. That's swings that you'd be like, well, how's he gonna do that? But he can hit. But I think, like you said, it's like you work on the swing when you're doing your prep work, and then once you get into that challenging, hard thing, it's you know compete. Now it's this is who I am. I can't change from the time I walk from on deck into the box. This is what I got. This is the cards I've dealt. Now just compete with it. And when you get into the box,
100%. And when you get to two strikes, I know strikeouts are more accepted than they've ever been, but the guys that are willing to look ugly, and those are the ones that tend to have more success with two strikes. And especially in college baseball, man, when you get there, ball in play averages are high. So putting the ball in play is still a win. And we track that. We track wins and losses strictly based on did you put the ball in play because we think we're going to win that battle, if we can keep our strikeouts low.
yeah. Well, a cool stat to build off of is like the worst team in the big leagues fields 980. The best team in college baseball fields 980. So that should
100%.
the value in putting the ball in play. And kind of leading off of that, I want to ask, like, for you, if there's one stat, what's your favorite offensive stat that you like to look at? If you had to pick one, you can give me two if there's two, because I have a couple too. I'm the same way, but if there's a couple that you would think of, like, for a guy necessarily, like, obviously, don't stats aren't everything, but if there's a couple things that you think would highlight over the others.
Well, I might be a little non-traditional because I think of myself as an offensive guy, not necessarily a hitting guy. So, uh, I'm looking at different ways we can create runs. And so the freebie war for me is huge. Are we not giving them freebies, punching out, and are we taking them from them, whether that be with dirt balls, with balls put in play? That's a big one for me that we track. And then, man, that's a tough question. A secondary one would probably be just kind of, you know, I had a coach who I worked for a while back who just swore that if you hit three doubles a game, you'd never lose. It's not entirely true. But of the offense that we're creating, how much production is in there? So, are we getting hits with runners in scoring position? Are we averaging more than two extra base hits a game? kind of those moving the needle things that create a total offense. So it's hard for me to pick one, but I love to hear yours.
Yeah, well, so for me, my favorite statistic is OPS because I feel like if you control the strike zone and you're on time, you're going to walk and you're going to drive the baseball. So for me, that's why I've always that and quality at bats. I think guys who consistently have quality at bats, I know that I can write their name in the lineup and I know that I don't have to worry about it because they're going to give me 60% in high school. You might not do that in college,
Right.
but I know that you're going
55 is our measure for
to.
reference. Like that's where we drew the line. We want to be over 55 as a team for our quality of bats.
Yeah, because you get to that, and that's like freebies is a great one because a lot of times when you do win the freebie battle, you do win the game because it's hard. And like I try to tell the guys, they don't realize it's like you don't lose on one play, but you certainly can put yourself in the position to lose on one play. And I mean, trust me, I played in a regional game last year against Tennessee. We were one pitch away from going to the championship. That one play definitely did beat us. So little things like that, like dirt ball reads hit by pitches and like, different things like that. And that's why I try to tell you guys like average, just throw that out the window. You might be hitting 400, but I've watched your at bats. You got 8 infield singles. You got a broken bat over the first baseman's head. It's great. You get hits. I understand. But uh, what does your 300 look like compared to the guy after you that's hitting 280, but he's got 20 doubles and his
Right.
exit is 95 every time? I don't, who do I
Yeah.
want?
Who do I want?
Yeah.
No,
So,
no, no doubt about it.
but and then maybe we'll look a little bit on the defensive side as well. Like what's some things, you guys try to teach or look for when you're looking at infielders, catchers, outfielders maybe. I mean, you can kind of pick one of those and go with it, but
Yeah. I'll speak specifically to the infield because I think that's been a really big strength for us this year. Till a couple blips this weekend, we were in the top 10 in fielding percentage in the NCAA. Hadn't looked this morning to see how much that dropped us or if we're still there, but it's because we got four guys across the infield who value and make the routine play. Uh, you know, they also are capable of making the extraordinary play, but for the most part, their feet, their tempo, their timing, everything about it is geared towards making sure that they catch every ball they should, that they've got rhythm underneath them, and that they can make good, strong, accurate throws across the infield. It's really pretty to watch with what we got going on this year, but it's in their prep work, man. Like we do a certain round during BP where there's no fungos. They're live off the bat. We have them in for a round. We have them back. We have them doing double plays for a round. Live action off the bat, moving their feet as quick as possible on the clock, trying to have 4 second feet. And I think it's made a huge difference, not just in their confidence to go make a play, leave their feet, make the spectacular play, but that's a lot of pressure when there's nothing to hide from. You can't just let that one that was hit a little to my left go. Let me take this fungo real quick. The one that feels comfortable. No, man, it's compete time during our batting practice, and that's a huge win for us. So when you're looking at that from the recruiting standpoint, you're looking for guys that have got good feet because typically if they do, they've got good hands.
yeah, well, one of my favorite things my dad ever said was no such thing as bad hops, there's just bad feet. So, but
Right.
I think you said prep work because, when we hit off the tee, we do front toss. Well, then defense, we're just like, oh, first ground ball gets in the game. Okay, you better be Ozzie Smith then. You better be really, really good at what you're doing and doing the little things, beforehand on the defensive side that sets you up for that. And like you said, I was a big I believe a lot in like you gotta catch the ones that are hit hard because guys hit the ball hard now. It's the fungo feels great. The showcase ground ball, I mean,
Everybody likes that one.
that. But we'll kind of start to get wrap this up a little bit. For you guys, like in your 25, 26 class, like is there anything specific you're kind of looking for right now as a current
Yeah.
time?
We've only got a couple guys signed in our 25 class right now. So we haven't closed up any position or anything like that. Hopefully we get to a point where we've got very specific needs and, we're just looking for, a power hitting third baseman and a left-handed spin specialist. But we're not there yet. We're looking for good players that, first and foremost, at the end of the day, they want to be at High Point. Not High Point's good, High Point's an option, High Point's okay if, that's where we want guys that, this is a place that they can see themselves thriving, because of the program, because of the academics, because of campus life, the whole thing. Just mainly because our best success since we've been here has been with those guys that uh, it is where they want to be and they believe it. You can win with those kind of guys. So those guys that you have on your team that reach out that are super interested in us, that means something to us. Obviously, the talent's got to be there. The evaluation has to say that you can play and succeed at this level. But if we can put those three things together, those are the kind of kids we're looking for. And that's why we've been a little slower. Thankfully, with the recruiting calendar backing up a little bit, it's allowed us to be a little bit more intentional in our evaluation. So going into the summer, that's something that we're focusing on is, which of those guys have a trait, first off? What did they have that at day one they can do at this level? Whether that's an offensive trait, a pitching trait, whatever, and what traits do they have we can develop? And then how does that stack up with what we expect to bring in maybe from a junior college standpoint to kind of balance out our roster?
Yeah, and that's a good point you say that, especially nowadays with the portal being kind of free agency. It's like you have to have the ability to do something right away. Like, why would they take what's going to make you stand out from a 2, 3 year college guy? And it's the ability, like you said, like, do you have the ability to step on campus and be able to perform right away? Do you have the ability to do something right away? Or are they going to have to develop you for 2 to 3 years and then finally get you in there?
And that's just to wrap it up. We got a couple freshmen contributing right now, and they're the ones that they've got one outlying thing that they're capable of doing, and we're slowly catching up the other things to where they can contribute more, but they've got something that can get them on the field right away, whether that's a plus defensive tool or they've got the chance to leave the ballpark with any swing, whatever that might be. There's definitely faults and deficiencies in there, but they've got something that can impact our roster early.
Yeah. Okay, so my final question, I always end the interviews with this is if you could give one piece of advice to, a high school recruit that's currently going through this crazy process, what would that be?
Honestly, my advice would probably be the same thing that we try and live by in our office, which is, measure twice, cut once. So it's tempting in the world that we're in now to think of the portal and all the ability to change schools as a plus, which it is. It gives you, for lack of better words, free agency and the opportunity if you get it wrong to move on. But man, I can't imagine it if I had a kid going through the process, a scarier proposition than going into the portal after your freshman year with zero at bats. That's just a bad place to be. Um, so my advice is really make sure that when you're going through it, you pick somewhere that wants you to be there and that you can succeed at. If you do those two things and you've got good people giving you advice on that and they agree with your assessment, then I think you're going to most likely land at a place that you're going to want to stick at, which should be everybody's goal.
Awesome, awesome. Well, for the guys watching, take the time out of your day, go look up High Point's campus and baseball field. They're two of the more pretty places you're going to see around the country, and hopefully we'll get Coach Willard and High Point University out to a couple events and a couple games this summer. And to finish off, Coach Willard, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on and kind of give some of these kids some advice and a little insight into the college baseball world.
Yeah, Mac, I appreciate you having me, man.
Thank you.